Can you hear me?
Yes, James, I can hear you.
Yes. Thank you again for joining us today. Can't hear Christopher for some reason.
Um,
Oh, and there are people in here more than us. Hello, other people. Gotta love live stuff. If you click
Can you
on
hear me
the
now?
Oh yeah.
Probably too loud. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fantastic. I mean, I can hear
Very
you.
American and a lot of caffeine today. It's 8:45.
Yeah, we're sitting here at 7:41 here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So
you're familiar.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, this isn't Miami, unfortunately. I'm the guy in the chair. The secret is out now, you guys know. But thank you very much for joining us today. We greatly appreciate you guys coming to talk. Pradeep is just in his other session. He will be joining us shortly. The room is open, so people can see and hear us now. It opens 8 minutes before the session, and you guys have all the time though. So once the session takes place, please don't feel like you have to immediately leave after you're done your certain session if there's more questions or anything like that. It does not close until you guys are finished. So
Cool.
and I will post in the other event and stages chat that this is occurring as well, and we'll see if people jump in here or not. Some people even don't know this sessions tab exists, but it's all good. I like your shirt, Gulshan. It's very nice. I like that. It's very classy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and the SAP. I didn't even notice your SAP there, Christopher. I was like, wow, you guys are on brand.
This is what we call vintage. It's about 6 years old because we're not allowed to. We don't have any of them in black anymore. They're always they're always these off gray and weird blues and odd whites.
Oh, because of the company colors.
Yep.
Yes.
This was one of those rare ones when I joined. I joined 9 years ago. This is about probably like 5 years old. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I got a couple of those tech shirts from other places I've joined as well, and you're like, it's weird sometimes because you want to wear them, but at the same time you're like, this is a piece of history. But then you're like, do people even understand that it's a piece of history? Like, will there be a 10 years down the line a T-shirt reselling tech thing?
Well, I remember sitting outside of a concert venue in San Francisco in probably 2010 or so. I worked at Intershop for 14 years, and I saw some gentleman who was, panhandling, wearing an old Intershop backpack. And I was both shocked and amazed that something that we handed out at a trade show was still getting used 10 years later, but shocked at who was wearing it. You know what I mean?
That's good quality right there.
Yeah.
Last 10+ years. Yeah. I always say that you should never skimp on swag because, people do actually draw from the brand when they receive a shirt. Like, I've definitely been like, oh man, this obviously was a real cheap shirt to produce. So
Well, we laugh because I remember going to a trade show back in the .com era, and we handed out little tiny keychain sized Etch-a-Sketches, and we gave away 1,000 of them. And I was going to customer sites and seeing them on their desks. So it matters,
It does. Yeah. You remember the people and the place from that kind of stuff. So feel free to use that in your talks in the future, But
this
is
much cooler than keychains, man.
Way cooler. Yeah. Well, good luck with your talk. If you guys need anything, I will be hiding in the back there.
Okay.
And Pradeep should be here shortly. He knows what's up. So
no problem.
Yeah. Break a leg, I guess, is the general thing to say. So hopefully you don't. And good luck. All right. See you guys later.
Hey, James. Thank you.
How many attendees are there today at the total event? Do you know?
Sorry?
How many attendees are there in the entire event? Because I was poking around some of these sessions. There were like 30 and 40 people dialing into stuff. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. So the in-person event is much more interesting. There's like a few thousand people attending it, and
Oh, wow.
I saw the stage, and it's an awesome stage with the middle screen kind of
Okay.
setup like this, and it's
Cool.
an amazing stage.
Okay.
I mean, I missed out being on the stage in person. Yeah.
Cool.
Hello, folks. This is lovely to see Gulshan and Chris.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, yes, I was just in my last session just now, and I had to close the session. I said I've got some wonderful people over there. So first of all, to everybody, wish you a good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, whatever it is in your part of the world. This is Pradeep from Sydney. Welcoming you to yet another session from Asia Pacific. And this is on what? Sorry, this is not on the metaverse. This is what I call 101, back to basics. But before that, let me introduce our two wonderful speakers. And three of us over here are from three different continents. I live in Sydney, so I am in Australia. And Australia is a country and a continent. And with me, I have Gulshan. Gulshan is delivery head for customer experience, and he's got a lot of other titles. But essentially, he is a leader from Bosch, and he is based in Asia, in Bangalore, the silicon capital of India. Gulshan, if you can wave, and if everybody can give a round of applause to Gulshan.
Thank you.
Moving on from Gulshan, there is somebody who's got a SAP t-shirt. I didn't know that SAP gave you black colored t-shirts with the blue logo.
Very
I know
rare,
about
sir.
the blue logo. But I have a lovely guy, and he is from where? Austin. He's Chris. Chris is what is called as he's a senior person who's essentially into solutioning support on large deals and a whole lot of new initiatives. Please give a big round of applause to Chris. And Chris, what time is it over there?
It's currently 8:49 a.m., so it's not too early. It's not bad. But I sat in on your earlier session, so I've been online for about an hour and a half.
So, man, it is 1:45 in Sydney in the morning. But let me first, the session is about how, with all these talks about metaverse, not talks, but talks about the trillion-dollar opportunities that the metaverse provides. The only thing uncertain at the moment is the timeline. We have McKinsey saying or forecasting, and this is a US based forecast, which says that, on average, people will spend about 4 hours in the metaverse in 5 years' time. And this will vary depending on whether the demographics is the baby boomer or are they Gen Z. Well, that's one forecast. Then you've got Gartner forecast, which says that, people will be spending at least 25% people will be spending some time in the metaverse in 5 years. And then you got Pew forecast. Pew did a survey of 674 leaders. And the bottom line was that even by 2040, only 56% of the respondents thought that metaverse will be up and running in the form it should be by 2040. Whatever it is, metaverse has hogged the headlines. So why are these guys sitting over here focusing on to some simple stuff like augmented reality? And what is this offering? So to explain that, let me ask Gulshan. Gulshan, what is the buzz about this AR and new business models, and what exactly are you guys doing?
So Pradeep, we have seen augmented reality being used in bits and pieces in customer experience, right? I come from the area of customer experience and from AR, VR, so it gives me a very unique view of what is happening in this domain. So before I go into too much detail, I would like to share a quick video, yeah,
Sure.
to tell more. I hope the lag is not too bad.
It's okay.
Are you looking to increase sales via your digital channels at a rapid pace? Do you want to enhance customer engagement, which would act as market differentiator? We have a ready solution for your business needs. We at Bosch Global Software Technologies bring you a mobile app named Bridge Commerce, where digital meets real. Our solution integrates SAP Commerce with intuitive, immersive, augmented reality experience. The three parts of the solution are product offering, enablement, and experience. Product offering. All powered by SAP Commerce, one can enrich your products with 3D models, product video, PDF manuals, and points of interest. Enablement. The app enables integration with SAP Commerce, on-premise, or cloud, thus offering a simple, scalable, and secure commerce experience. Once pushed to live catalog, products can be seen on the listing page and can be searched. Experience. Customers can view products in an immersive AR with points of interest, 3D models, product manuals, and video. As an icing on the cake, the app enables you to add to cart, checkout, order review, and confirmation. Thanks for watching. Do contact us for a solution demo and a trial for free.
So, as you can see, Pradeep, we have an offering which allows enterprises to bring AR experiences to their e-commerce faster. Traditionally, what has happened is bringing an AR experience is a long drawn process, typically run as a project, takes months and months of implementation, integration, testing, and so on and so forth. What we've done is created an authoring solution tightly integrated with SAP Hybris for the e-commerce, where you can bring in a 3D asset, enrich it, make it into a good experience by adding points of interest, documents, videos, whatnot, and publish it. That means push it to your e-commerce application. By doing this, what happens is you can churn out augmented reality experiences much faster and take them to the customer in much shorter time.
Well, this
So this,
sounds wonderful. So, is it that you are flooded with business, or is it like Oliver Twister? Please, sir, can I have some more kind of a story?
so currently we have some encouraging discussions going on in early stages where we have interest from e-commerce websites which want to incorporate this. Primarily, we have interest from home appliances. We have interest from power tools divisions, where an experience to look and feel the product before buying makes an impact on your purchase decision.
So, let me ask you, there are two large global companies. One is
Mhm,
Bosch and the second is SAP. So
mhm.
what is this is a joint offering. So what is SAP doing and what is Bosch doing in this?
Yep. So this is where this gets kind of interesting, because the commerce application that's under the hood is, Gartner 8 years in a row, like, a leader in the Magic Quadrant. This has been around for a while. We've got 3,500 plus customers globally. We conducted more than $1 trillion in GMV in our cloud offering last year. We're on track to beat that this year. So we do commerce really well, and we're SAP. So we do that ERP to commerce, and obviously the ERP stuff very, very well. What we don't do well is cool stuff like this that companies like Bosch and this the bridge commerce stuff can do quickly, right? SAP will get there. We've got little initiatives that we're working on internally as well, but stuff like this that has jumped the gun and doing more than we can, that's huge. And the fact that there's already a relationship signed in contract and in place where it's turnkey, right? It's the idea that Bosch has this unique little team. It's not that little, but like they have a unique team that can do this really cool stuff, leveraging what's in SAP Commerce out of the box, right? So they're using the stock APIs, our product data, which typically comes from ERP. They're making it cool and doing stuff very uniquely. And it makes sense, right? Because it's turnkey, a customer can come to us and be like, hey, we want to talk to the Bosch guys. We can introduce them. Or they can go directly out to the SAP store and contact them directly through there. We've already gone through and built the plumbing.
So, if as a layperson, all I can make out is that you are the boring guy and this guy is the cool guy. Gulshan is the cool guy.
Hey, I mean that's fair to a certain degree, right? Like my running joke is, and I'm sure some of you have heard this before. My running joke is, listen, we are engineers first at SAP. We are graphic designers like 23rd, 24th, right? We do great, cool stuff, and we do it very well. But there are other people that do pieces on top of that even better.
So let me go across to Gulshan. Gulshan, the whole world is doing, or at least talking only about the metaverse. How did you guys kind of land up into such, back to basics and solving a real problem rather than onto the metaverse? Are you guys doing anything in the metaverse?
We do have a metaverse strategy in place, yeah. And I keep telling my guys, so what we are doing with metaverse today, yeah, is quite a parallel to me to what we were doing with IoT, say in early 2000, 2005 timeframe. Yeah, everyone wants to do metaverse, but we do not know what we want to do in metaverse. We here at Bosch are working at a more foundational level where we are trying to solve the core components of metaverse. For example, interoperability, pluggability, right? Collaborative experiences. These are the basic components of a metaverse experience which need to be solved, brought to a good experience, and then the whole thing stitches together. So we are working quite a bit on this. And just to give you a trailer, right? Bridge Commerce is a component of my larger virtual experience zone strategy which we are running, where we bring in more and more components and stitch the whole thing together. So yes, Pradeep, you got it right. Basic components have to be in place and working before we start building the full story together.
So how long have you been? So first of all, tell me that is there a new business model that you're taking this to market?
Yes.
This offering?
Yes. So we are taking a different approach to AR and CX. Yeah. Rather than taking a traditional project implementation, we have taken a more OPEX driven approach rather than CAPEX. What it does is, for example, my pricing model on Bridge Commerce revolves around SKU based pricing, individual component or individual product hosted on e-commerce based pricing. Yeah. With a SKU based pricing, an enterprise can get on board quickly onto this solution, doesn't have to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars upfront to get the first result. And then the entire cost is quite predictable. So we are not going by turnovers and things like that. We are going on SKU based. So cost is predictable for an enterprise. They know what they're getting into. That makes adoption much more easier for the decision makers.
So in other words, what you are doing is it's like a user pay kind of a model.
Yes. Pay as
So
you go.
first of all, the customer pays for what they kind of use. Number two is that it is more coming into OPEX rather than as a CAPEX, which normally people would have if they would have gone into a AR kind of an offering.
And
Now,
here's the crazy part, Pradeep. We're doing the same
yeah,
thing at SAP, right? Our commerce offering is now done either on the number of orders you process or your total gross merchandise value. Gone are the days of you paying us millions of dollars up front for all the infrastructure. Everything's cloud-based. Everything's in a public cloud. Everything is turnkey and ready to be handed over to our customers 72 hours after a contract is signed. It's then up to customers to go through.
I agree 100% for you with you on this. You see, but this is 2022.
Yep.
And I remember when I used to work with IBM, we came out with a cloud and utility pricing model, and it was I think 2005 and 2001 or something like that, and we were way ahead of our times. And when the actual cloud came about in about 2008 and 9, then you kind of tossed your coin around and everybody stood up, me cloud, me cloud, me cloud kind of a situation. Now
That's fair.
let me now ask you, Chris.
Yeah.
Now, who's owning the go-to-market strategy? Is it you, Bosch, or is it SAP, or is it joint?
It's technically joint. So because they're already in our SAP store, we've already gone down the whole legal path of certifying the product, saying, cutting and putting a line in the sand as to who's responsible for what parts of the of a support issue. We've already gone down the line of how this is all going to work, and they're in our SAP store. That takes time just by itself to get up and running and go through that entire partner process, right? So this is not one of those. I don't want to bash a competitor, but this is not like the Magento marketplace where almost anybody can sign up and be a partner and do stuff. We are very, very restrictive in what we allow because it's our name on it, right? If you're going to plug into our SAP Commerce Cloud and you're going to be a partner and a reseller with us, we are true partners with those people that we select.
So let me ask you, do you also take 30%?
That's above my pay grade, Pradeep.
Okay, so Gulshan,
That's a good question.
Let me ask you a question that is the go-to-marketing strategy at the moment any specific geo-focused, or is it global? And if I were a customer, can I go to both Bosch and SAP and take offers from both, and then whoever gives me a lower price, take it up?
So I'll answer both the questions, right? The solution by design is a cloud native solution. That means technically it can be deployed anywhere in the world. Yeah. However, we have taken a conscious decision to focus on US and EU region, and of course our native region is APEC, Asia Pacific, Japan. So these are 3 geographic focus areas. I'm happy to talk to anyone from any other corner of the world, right? Including Elbonia. Yeah. In terms of reaching out, you can reach out to the SAP team. You can reach out to Bosch team. It's a joint GTM, so you will most probably end up talking to the same bunch of guys. So,
so the other thing which always worries me when it comes to such big companies is that large companies have super matrix structures, and they've got very, very wide range of offerings both in terms of product and services, and very often a small offering can just get lost within the bigger scheme of things. How is that being handled by this Bosch SAP consortia?
The big thing is we have to do a better job internally of highlighting cool things like this to our own internal sales and pre-sales folks, because it's not a buzzword. This is something that's been around for a while, that's going to continue to be around for a while. And so we need to be able to be crystal clear into how the offerings are going to work, the financials, the impacts for our sales team, the whole 9 yards. But we also have to make sure that, you've poked around the SAP website. I'll be candid. I know we're being recorded. We're not known for showing off a lot of our customer details because we're a very German privacy matters company. Pradeep, if you were a customer, I'm not allowed to talk about details about you as a customer unless I have some pretty explicit permissions. So we're already talking to these guys about how we need some good customer examples we can show off, because let's be honest, something this cool, when we have a couple of really good examples, we can do an entire campaign around it. And that's up on the list.
Yeah. Some of the points that you make, resonate with me, because when I was with IBM, and I looked at the LinkedIn profiles of some other IBMers and mapped out their connections, I would find that 80% are within IBM only. Why? Because you need that network within the organization, to
Yeah,
manage even
100%.
before you go out. Okay,
And
so
for two companies with a global footprint and a global reach, that's essential. It's absolutely essential.
so let me ask now. Go to Gulshan now. Gulshan, to be honest here, this seems really a wonderful offering where the e-commerce companies have a great opportunity. Don't worry about the skill sets of building up your own solutions and all that. But you see, there are few bits and pieces. There are stuff like 3D models. There is a whole lot of other things, kind of a stuff. So are all these included in the offering?
So there are two parts to solving an AR experience in any CX situation, right? One is the creation of 3D assets, and then a second part is actually taking those assets and creating the whole experience. Yeah. Our current offering is focusing on creating the experience, but we also have an offering a services part of it where, for example, some of my customers in white goods area for home appliances, for power tools, if they do not have the 3D assets, we offer that as a service. We have a team of experts, which is a combination of 3D modelers, asset creators, plus photogrammetry experts who use images to create 3D assets. So through this, we basically offer this as a service, create assets at a very low cost and with high quality, and offer it to our customers, which can then be put through our solution.
So in other words, you can have an end-to-end solution,
Oh yes.
which incorporates all these different modular kind of a thing. Okay, got it. That's good to know. But I suppose the other question which comes to my mind, and let me go across to Chris, is this for large corporates or is it for SMBs? You see, because when you look at the metaverse or the VR AR ecosystem, it's very fragmented.
Yeah.
Like, just to give you an example, that Australia has about 2,000 entities.
Mhm.
South Korea has about 1,000 entities. China has about 4,000 entities, not 4,500 entities. India has about 3,000 entities. But 80% of them are startups.
Yeah.
And then 75% of the 80% are self-funded. So do you think that these guys are your customers, or are they just the big ones?
So we have a tradition here at SAP of obviously, the stat, like 83 cents of every dollar, transacted in global business goes through an SAP system at some point, right? It's crazy the footprint we have with all the companies that we own and all the things that we do. But let's be honest, the future growth for especially customer experience is going to be in small to medium sized businesses, right? There's actually teams inside of SAP, inside of different divisions, chasing what we call mid-market or small to medium-sized businesses, or even general business, right? And these are the startups, to your point, Pradeep. These are established companies. Let's be honest, there's still a real need and demand for especially smaller manufacturers that want to still go through their normal distribution channels, but now want to go direct to a customer, or direct to the engineer, or direct to the roofer. The steel roof on my house here in Austin, Texas was manufactured up in Houston, but the guys that were out front with me had the iPad and a virtual reality system set up so they could show me the different colors and perspectives of my actual house, right? That roofer is a small business that's doing, $3-4 million of business a year. And those are the kind of companies that A, would benefit from an offer like this, and B, we've been actively chasing. You'd be surprised at the number of, SMBs that SAP has globally, especially in the CX portfolio.
So on a different note, both of you are essentially German companies. So was it a
That's fair.
factor in these two companies coming together? No, jokes apart. Let me ask you, Gulshan, that we've looked at what your go-to-market strategy is. We've looked at who are your target customers. We've looked at the offering and the roles of SAP and Bosch in this, and we've also looked at that there is an end-to-end solution also possible, in different modules. But what are the challenges? It all seems very hunky-dory.
So challenges would be this, right, Pradeep? One is typically somebody who is already on an e-commerce website or an application yeah, to integrate with their current existing system and creating a smooth experience. That would be a challenge. So we have strategies to implement it, but that is one interesting one. A second challenge, which is true for any other AR experience or a VR experience, is the realism or the quality of a product experience.
Mhm.
The intention of AR and CX is to accelerate a purchase decision, to ensure a person looking at a product actually buys it. Yeah. And the product has to look realistic. It has to look high quality. If it looks cartoonish, it actually does the exact opposite of the desired result. So these are the challenges we are facing. In some parts, technology is evolving to solve it. So it's a matter of next few months where technology will mature further and we'll be able to create better experience. In some parts, it's actually our solutioning approaches which will help us to get
I would add that there's one other thing,
there.
which is we have to be nervous about our customers enabling this technology for their customers. There need to be the capabilities of our customers, even the smaller ones, to be able to adapt and adopt this kind of a technology. And so the easier we make this, these are all web browser based tools. There's not a lot of heavy software and a lot of heavy lifting here to do this sort of stuff, because the old joke, right? The garbage in, garbage out. If we don't have good data to render these cool models to put into a cool storefront, it's useless, right? And the other one I always point out is, again, showing my age here in the industry, the old era of the big bang. We're going to go out the door with like 19 different things. We're going to be so sexy. We're going to kill eBay. Those eras are gone, right? So going out and getting your feet wet and testing things and verifying stuff is working before putting months and months of effort into cleaning up your data and making stuff work, talking to your actual end customers to make sure this makes sense. That's going to be just as important as actually rolling out a project on its own.
Understand, and valid points. Now, let me again ask you, Gulshan. You see,
Mhm.
I speak at about 2 to 3 conferences a week on average. There was a time when I used to be speaking at conferences, and 70% people didn't even know the difference between VR and AR. Now, presumably, the rate has reduced significantly. But do you find that this is a bit of a challenge in terms of when you're talking to your go-to-market teams within your organization as well as to the customers?
There is still a lot of awareness which has to be done, right? A lot of enablement which has to be done. So, which is why we have focused on creating strong collaterals and demo solutions, so that more than speaking today, my aim is to have the demo instances of this solution basically installed on every sales guy's phones, every business development guy's phones, so they can actually demonstrate. A visual experience is so much more impactful. So that's how we are addressing this challenge. But yes, awareness is still required. People still need to be told that AR can bring a true value. It can actually support or promote a positive purchase decision. It needs a bit of selling.
And I would
Okay.
and I would add, Pradeep, I would add, it's weird. 5 years ago, I
Mm.
rarely saw an RFP from anybody asking about your AR, VR, or partner AR, VR offerings, and now it's every other one, right? Because it's now become, it's not just another buzzword. You know what I mean? And it's interesting because you're finding the asks come not just in commerce, but also in like those periphery things around commerce. So it's the is there an AR VR plugin potentially for the repair guys to learn how to actually look at, and what should a part look like before it exploded in this machine, right? Or what are the steps to put this together? Or hey, the roofing guy again, being able to show off 6 different options and colors and things for me before I pick the one item I actually have. Those are things that are now kind of table stakes for what people are asking for, because they're looking at, whenever someone's looking at us or even one of our competitors to sign a commerce agreement, they're looking at a 3 or 5 year commitment, right? You're signing a contract for a multi-year cloud deal. So they need to know and be comfortable with the fact that what we start with is still going to be able to power what we need year 1, year 2, year 3 out the door. So that's why pre-built stuff like this, pre-integrated stuff like this is so necessary.
So, okay. So, Gulshan, now you have launched this as a mobile-based AR. So, what about offerings including smart glasses and going up the value chain?
We do have offerings on smart glasses, on wearable devices as well. The use cases there are more in-store in retail use cases. For example, a person purchasing a fridge or a dishwasher can actually use a HoloLens device and experience what different colors and designs of that same dishwasher or the same fridge would look like. Yeah.
But that is a
So
tradition. That is a traditional AR application in terms
yes,
of what
yes,
IKEA has been doing for donkey number of years. Hmm.
yes.
Okay, but you've kind of answered the question. Let me go
We are
across to
authoring
Chris.
it. So
Hmm?
that is where the speed comes in.
So let me go across to Chris. Chris, is the main revenue in support, or is it in the just in the AR part?
No. For us, the revenue is in the transaction. Hand on heart, I don't care how you convert as long as you convert. I need orders, right? Because I'm incented and all my sales guys are paid on order volumes, right? I want 2 trillion in GMV next year, right? Because that's how we grow and we can then get money to put back into the product from an R&D perspective and team up with more of the ancillary partners out in the fridge to do this sort of stuff, right? So I'm here to help, right? Stuff like this, when it pops up and I realize, whoa, this is something cool that works that I can then show off myself. That's a big deal, Pradeep, right? You know this. We've been in software for a long time. A PowerPoint presentation is a PowerPoint presentation. A conversation is a conversation. Pulling up actual software and showing stuff working and then going and actually pointing to live examples, that's a game changer, right? That's a complete game changer.
Okay. So, Gulshan, how much time did it take you to develop this offering?
We have been working on this for just over a year now, where we worked out different kinks in the system. We were originally targeting it as a browser-based solution, but then we realized that the browser technologies are not yet at par. So today we are working on mobile, and browser is now part of my roadmap. So a little over a year, and with SAP, the publication onto the app store, like what Chris said, it's a long process to actually qualify and get our product out there. So it took us around 4 to 5 months to get it published, and now we are working on the GT.
That's the terrible part, Pradeep. I mean, again, we don't just let anybody in.
See, look, again, I am sorry I keep, kind of talking about IBM and all that, but the reality is in the large companies, I still remember that when it came to, the operating environment, it used to be that we were always one step behind the current version of anything, because it had to be
100%.
stable. It had to be stable. It had to be kind of,
100%.
the risks are minimized and so on and so forth. So I understand what you are talking about. Now, let me ask you that if I was the customer and I wanted to implement this, and let's say that I had about, say, maybe 100 SKUs.
Mhm.
Now, in that kind of a situation, how much time would it take and what kind of a cost would they be for me? Just ballpark. I'm not looking for quotes and all that, but like, is it going to be like hundreds of millions of dollars? It's going to be $1 kind of a story.
Assuming that the commerce is already there, correct? They've already got whether or not it's SAP, assuming they've already got a commerce implementation. All right.
Yes. So I think there are two steps, right? First, integrate our AR into your system. That should be a short process, probably a few weeks, 4 to 6 weeks at most. And then we get into authoring. Assuming you have the assets in place, we start publishing the assets, and you can have AR experience integrated into your mobile ecosystem, your e-commerce application ecosystem, in something under 8 weeks time. Yeah, that's your starting point, and then from there, it's up to you how long and how detailed you want to build it up. Cost wise, like I said, it's an OPEX model. So yes, you do not have to spend millions in it, but it's definitely a little more than $1.
Okay. I thought
What I
that
would
I'll
point
It's
get
an
out,
it.
OPEX model.
these guys will tell you the same thing that we would tell you, which is you don't have to go out the door with all 400,000 SKUs in your catalog. Pick
Exactly.
the 25 that make the most sense to start. Teach the people how to keep rendering more because you're going to pay per SKU so you might as well do the things that you want to convert more. And we're going to recommend the same thing because we want you to transact more. That's how we get paid. I'm being candid.
No, love it, love it, love it, love it. But I am so sorry that that you can't have $1 transactions. But that's okay. Let it go. Now,
Who
uh,
knows?
so one of the challenges that I see is really in terms of integration with the legacy system. And legacy is like a non-SAP kind of environment.
Sure.
Mhm.
So are you by default then restricted to, because the integration can be a bit of a challenge. So are you by default restricted to those people who've got SAP?
Nope. So the pre-built integration here that we would sell in this example, you could come through SAP to purchase this. You can also go directly to these guys to purchase it to plug it into another third-party commerce system. Keep in mind, SAP Commerce, though, does not require SAP ERP under the hood. Roughly 1/3 of our live commerce customers run someone else from an ERP perspective back of house. In retail especially, they tend to run SAP ERP, but then they run other things for the POS systems, for the warehousing systems that may not be SAP. We still integrate everything from the back end perspective, but think of this as, that cool thing on top of us because they don't care what's under the hood.
So in other words, you are the back end boring guy and he's the front end flashy guy.
Yeah, we said that earlier. That's fair. I hate to call commerce middleware, but if you think about it, modern commerce engines have become kind of middleware applications. It's why you're seeing competitors, that we have setting themselves up as just API first, API only kind of systems, because they're going to plug into another CMS. They're going to plug into another OMS. They don't care what the ERP is under the hood. It's no different.
So which gets me to the other point that what is I heard that Azure is also involved. So what is Azure doing in this?
Azure.
Yeah.
Azure. So that the SAP Commerce Cloud runs in Azure.
Okay. So what happens if you if you have AWS?
So if you're running the SAP Commerce Cloud, you're running our cloud offering. It's in Azure only at the moment, right? That being said, don't get me in trouble. That's at the moment, that's what we're running on, right? But that being said, if they chose to use a different commerce application, it wouldn't matter. And to be candid, our commerce application, even in Azure, allows any of our customers to use any third-party CMS. We've got customers running AEM on the glass. They're running Sitecore. That are running Contentful, especially. That's the new big one that everyone's flocking to. So we don't care what's on the glass. And we're pretty cool once we let you into our ecosystem to play, like these guys here, the Bridge Commerce stuff, that we don't care where it's hosted, right? We got customers who are running Vue and React storefronts hosted in Amazon pointing to our Commerce Cloud in Azure. That doesn't matter.
Okay.
So
again, it's boring, but it works.
So Pradeep, to give a more layman context, right? And a commerce conversation, a commerce transaction involves the commerce website itself, the order management system, the payments, and so on and so forth. SAP, interestingly, and this is probably outside the metaverse conversation, but SAP is moving into a very composable way where you as an enterprise can choose to plug in, plug out relevant components and replace them with your own order management, your own cloud storage, and so on and so forth. So we have also built Bridge Commerce in a similar pluggable approach. So there's a lot of combinations which can be
I think this is a very, very valid point, because the whole metaverse discussion itself is now hinging on interoperability between the mini metaverses which are being built by companies, as well as the data decentralization paths which are also being driven by Web 3.0 and Blockchain 3.0. So yes, very, very valid points that it has to be the interoperability becomes the key. Okay, look, guys, we are almost at our end. Now, what one last comment from both of you, that, and especially in terms of the unique value proposition, and how do you stay ahead of the curve? Because if you guys are successful, you will have tons of competitors eating at your tails.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well,
Chris, you want to go first?
From a commerce nerd perspective, we're constantly paying attention. Like, we have to be paying attention to what else is out there, what they're doing, how open their frameworks are to allow for things like this, right? The partner ecosystem that we have, Pradeep, it's about 200 different partners that we allow into this ecosystem to play for a reason, right? We're paying attention. Sometimes we might have a competitive offering ourselves. Sometimes we might acquire someone who's a competitive offering in this bigger kind of, I don't want to call it fringe, but like the outer periphery of our ecosystem. So we have to pay attention, and we're constantly focused. And let's be honest, we've been doing this longer and doing more than anybody else. So we are constantly having everyone nip at our heels, everyone's challenging us. So we have to pay attention. I think that's why we've adopted this process here of having things like Bridge Commerce that can do things very quickly based on our framework and our whole ecosystem that we could not have done, say, 5 or 6 years ago. Like, I'm old enough to remember SAP when you used to have a login and permission to read our documentation. Remember those days? You couldn't just go to the web and Google stuff and find it, right? And I'm old enough to remember the olden days when SAP was crazy controlling about what could or could not come into our data centers and what, you know what I mean? So things have drastically changed as the entire industry has shifted. I think that's where a partnership like this makes sense.
And any last minute comments by you, Gulshan?
So, like you mentioned, Pradeep, right? We need to stay ahead of curve. The way we are approaching it in Bosch is we have these focused innovation teams created in pockets. They run like mini startups. Bridge Commerce is one of the examples which came out of such a team. And their job is only to look at disruptive solutions, uh, things which drastically change the current working model and bring it into mainstream. So more than happy engineering actually bring the solution. So we are constantly doing that, and it's something really which excites us and gives us that chance to change something out there in the real world. Yeah.
Look, guys, thanks a lot
Sure.
for this lovely discussion. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and thank you to all the attendees. It was a very lovely discussion because you see, this is also something that we need to focus on while the bigger picture remains the metaverse, because end of the day, we have to be solving real world problems, and we need to be adding value, whether it is to a consumer or to a business, and that becomes the key element.
100%.
I know more than 10,000 entities in the metaverse ecosystem, and I suppose, and by the day I meet so many new people every day, and one of the questions that I ask them is that what is your revenue at this particular point in time? Not that I'm looking for actual revenue, but I want to get a feel for, are they solving any real world problems or getting lost into the hype of the metaverse kind of a story.
Yeah.
So with that, thank you so much, and for the audience, please feel free to reach out to these gentlemen. They're kind, and for it's just that for every question I just charge $100, but that's all right. You can give me an IOU or something like that. But take care. This is Pradeep from Sydney signing off.
Have a good evening, sir.
Thank you so much for the lovely session, Pradeep.
Great.
For the attendees, we'll probably stay back for some time, at least for the next 5 minutes. I can see a few people joined. If there's any question, if there's anything, we can probably answer. But thank you, Chris, for joining, and an interesting session.
I'll leave you to it. Feel free to pester me if you need anything, okay?
Sure.